The well, I think we're going to have some time on, I believe, Friday to actually to do a little bit of something with the materials once you pull them together. So, any questions? All right. Well, if you have any, feel free to send me a note. I think you got, or you can send a note to MJ, and she can find me somehow. Usually by looking across the room. But otherwise, have fun with it. Again, just it's intended to be a fun little exercise, or activity. And it looks like Tom has joined. Not Tom, but John has joined. So.
Yep.
Hey guys, I'm just getting my presentation ready to go, so it'll be a few more moments.
All right. So
I'll stop sharing. And anyone else have any questions? Rayanne has joined us too. So hi, Rayanne.
And folks, kids, guys, everybody, I've got some mandatory training that I got and I'm actually doing part of the presentation. So I need to sign off here. So I'm going to say goodbye for today. If you have any questions about that activity, let me know. Otherwise, have fun with it. See y'all later.
See you, Paul.
Thank you, Damien, for helping to remind me to start the recording. And so it is recording. So if anyone's watching this afterwards, you can contact us if you have any questions about the activity, the first aid kit activity, okay? Because you missed the first part of it. All right.
All right, we'll see y'all later.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye. Have a good meeting.
Thank you.
Yeah. So take over whenever you're ready, John. And for those who weren't on before, when I was talking about the gift cards, if you haven't received one, and if you haven't submitted some of the activities, feel free to do so. We'll put a list of all of the activities on the website so that you can actually have access to all of them, and then feel free to do any of the activities, and then you will get an Amazon gift card. So gee, you can make money while you're attending Ready Camp this year, so that's a good thing. All right. So yeah,
you're never going to believe this, but my computer is being a little slow right now, so it's just finishing loading here.
Not a problem. I just came from a presentation. It was amazing of all of the different ways that you can use online learning and engage participants. So I'm going to have to watch it again, though, because everyone knows how techie I am. I'm going to have to watch that presentation all over again. So. Tom, do you have any updates while John's?
Nope. I'm working on putting together tomorrow's presentation and stuff with an ambulance service. So we'll be able to view an ambulance tomorrow and talk to some crews and stuff like that. So
Excellent.
If nothing else, we'll do it in Oregon, but I'm trying to get another ambulance service to take it over.
Oh, great. Excellent. That'll be fun. And
yeah.
So also yesterday we mentioned that we would be at the UW helicopter site, UW MedFlight helicopter site today, John would be, but unfortunately with the rising numbers of COVID, we're not allowed to do that. So because they have to protect the helicopter and the crew and everything. We have had the record number of positive cases from yesterday, from the day before yesterday to yesterday. So things have to get a little bit more tight with different things. So that's one thing with this Ready Camp, is that unfortunately we're not able to show you all of what we want to. But we had all kinds of things that were really exciting things planned, but we have to go with what's the best and what's most safe for everyone. So, okay. So maybe it'll calm down by the end of the Ready Camp, and then we can do that at the end. But right now, the numbers are way too high. So, okay. All right.
It's almost loaded here.
Okay, sounds great. Well, John's the guru of all this techie stuff. So, yeah, I need to learn from you too. Okay. Alrighty. So I could bring up, okay, so I could, I'll share my screen here in the meantime. And if I can here. So this is what, this is kind of my tracking tool for all the activities. So if I've sent you, make sure that you've received the Amazon gift card if you haven't. So, so basically, if you post an introduction video to Flipgrid, that's in there. And then the pre-test, I'm going to get the, I don't have who all submitted that because that went into a document. So John and I will work on that. The 3 good things, I haven't had time to look at that, but again, if you go to our website and go to the Ready Camp corner and click on the agenda for each of the weeks, it has the Flipgrid for all of these, and so you can actually go ahead and submit them. So the 3 good things, you can still do that. The FEMA game, that basically was those who were participating were able to get that. John Hopkins Psychological First Aid, the link to that is also on our website. And I gave a higher Amazon gift card for that because that's a lot of work. And so we really appreciate Rayanne and Janice for doing that. T-shirt design, I haven't sent it to a design company yet. So if anyone wanted to do that by the end of this week, you could create a t-shirt design, and we are going to send it out, or I already sent out the 2 that we received. And we're going to have our leadership team from all across the state actually vote on them. And I've received one from Rayanne and from Janice so far. There's coloring page activity from the first aid week, that's week 2. And then the first aid kit that Janice was talking about is, and I should put first aid kit 1 because you're going to have another first aid kit activity too. And then the ERG activity, I haven't sent out the gift cards yet, but I will. And then the recruitment activity too. So I'm just going to add in here first aid 2. And if you think of anything else that that I'm missing with all of the activities, just let me know. Okay. All right. I'm going to stop sharing. And are you ready, John?
Well, hopefully less than a moment or 2 away. My,
Okay.
yeah.
All righty.
Caramba.
Does anyone have any questions about all of the different activities? Damien's camera glitched out for some reason, so we can see you, Damien. And Rayanne said, what are the coloring pages? And that was to create, I wasn't on that week. So John, if you could explain what that, or Tom, what the coloring pages was.
Yeah, we can send it out again. It was just a coloring page where you can print it out, or you can use one of your apps to design and come up with some really awesome designs. And then just send it back to us once it's completed. So we have a couple of them in our bank.
Okay. Yeah. And then the first aid kit was again during week 2. And Janice, I think, is the only one who had submitted something for that. And so John will send those back out again. And then Jordan says, can we find all the activities on the Ready website? Yes, we will make sure that all of the activities are on there so that you can have access to all of them. Okay. And if you can't, you know, you can always just email them to me too. You don't, I mean, if you can't get to the Flipgrid or whatever, just send me an email and attach them if they're not too big, or a link. Rayanne sent her recruitment on Google Slides, so that works too. So any format. I'm getting more and more techie all the time, so you guys are helping me to do that, so I appreciate it. So, okay.
Okay, it looks like we're finally ready. So let me pull it up here. Thanks for your patience, everyone. Appreciate it big time. All right, so why don't you, I'm gonna try and share here.
I did that. You can share with everyone.
Let me know when you can see it, MJ.
Oh, okay.
Anything yet?
Yep, a day in the life.
Oh, sweet, perfect. Okay, cool. So you guys, we get to talk today about kind of some of the things that go into being an EMT, and if you have any questions, go ahead and pop them into the chat, and we'll do our best to answer them and go from there. So we have, this is just some of the stuff that where I run in Jefferson, Wisconsin. So there's a picture of one of our ambulances. Here's a picture of one of our ambulances with med flight at a training we did a couple of years ago. Oh, and I'm so sorry, I forgot to tell you. So we have some pictures in here that are of a training. So this is all fake stuff. So this is an example of, so none of this is real. So this is a picture of a young lady that we put, that's all fake blood and fake gore on her that you can see. Mm-hmm. And so before prom every year, or every other year, we have all of our fire department, EMTs, we put a couple of cars out on the football field and do kind of a demonstration so kids can see what it looks like when there's a car crash. It's kind of a way to help them think about destructive decisions and making really good decisions. Because sometimes prom night and homecoming, that sort of thing can lead to bad decisions. And so this is one of the ways that we interact with our community and help prevent injuries and help bring awareness to some of the people in the community. Here's another picture. All that fake blood was my personal artwork. So you can see it's all corn syrup, and there's a little bit of flour in there for texture and some food coloring too. Oh, there's a picture of me driving down the road with the lights and sirens on. Here is a picture from an ice rescue that we did a couple of years ago. So this is training. You can see that those guys down in the water are wearing really, really thick, like diving suits. They're dry suits. And so because we work with the fire department and we train for so many things. And one of those things that happens every year is ice rescue. So what happens if someone's out ice fishing and they go through the ice? So we have to be able to go in and get them, or if something bad happens and someone falls through the ice. So this is one of our training opportunities that we have. We also did a training with the City of Madison Hazardous Incidents Team. So they're called the HIT team. And so it's like hazmat, which stands for hazardous material. And so there could be so many different things that would lead to a hazardous material, from a tanker truck that flips over that has chemicals in it, to maybe there's a factory that has chemicals and the chemicals spill from the factory. So because some of these things are so specialized and there's so many different things, there's a specialized team of people who get tons and tons of training on this. And so the City of Madison in Wisconsin has their HIT team. And if in Jefferson or Cambridge or somewhere in Oregon needs help, they'll call them to bring, you can see on the bottom, there's a picture. It's like a huge semi-tractor trailer type thing. It's a mobile command post. And they'll come out and help, because it's really hard for some of us smaller departments to have some of these really big things. So if you think about, like, if there is maybe let's say that there's a tanker truck carrying something crazy, like one of the ones that we deal with pretty regularly is anhydrous ammonia, which is a chemical that can be used in a lot of different ways. And so if that spills, we have to work with the fire department to not only treat the patients. And so the picture at the top left is a shower tent where we rinse the chemicals off patients. That's like a conveyor belt where the patients would lay on there and we would move them through if they're not able to walk. And so we not only take care of the patients, but also the fire department works hard on taking care of the scene and making sure that the chemicals are contained. They'll work with the Department of Natural Resources or other people to make sure that they get everything they need to get the chemicals cleaned up and to prevent other people from getting infected with whatever chemical it is, or from being exposed. So these guys on the hazardous materials team, or the HIT team, hazmat team, they have so much training in figuring out the wind speed and figuring out how far away they need to stay from these things. So we're really lucky that there's another one in Milwaukee too. So between those two groups, they kind of cover the entire state of Wisconsin for wherever there's a really big hazardous incident. Now we're going to talk a little bit about the education path that goes into being an emergency medical technician. And so there's a couple of different levels, and I'm going to try to click on a button here. So if you look, can you see my little red dot? Right here is the EMR, which stands for Emergency Medical Responder. And right up here, it's 4 months, so 1 semester of classes. So for example, we have people who go to class, it's like 2 or 3 hours, 2 nights a week. So it's not too much school, and that's the basic level. You could also start out right here at the EMT basic level, which is a little bit more education and has a little bit more as far as what you can do. However, in order to move any further, you have to have one of these first two. So if you want to become an EMT advanced, that's a second semester of college where they talk about more medications that you can give, more procedures, starting IVs, looking at heart rhythms, and some of that sort of thing. You could skip the EMT or I-99 and go right to EMT paramedic after you get your basic. So there's a lot of ways that you can combine this education, but the EMT paramedic is the top level in the pre-hospital setting. So one of the really neat deals is that, like, maybe Tom could talk about the internship program that they have in Oregon. That's a really interesting way to get some of your education.
Definitely. Oh, did you want me to talk now, or?
Is that okay? Yeah. Do you have this?
Yeah. Sorry,
Oh,
I'm spacing
cool.
out. Yeah. No. So in Oregon, we offer an internship program, and it's a three-year program. And in those 3 years, we have you get your associate's degree in fire science, and then we don't pay for the associate's degree, but we give you kind of like a reimbursement based on your grades. So you can get up to like $700 back each semester based on your grades. But we will send you to school to get your basic EMT, and then right from basic, we will get you tested so that you can go right into paramedic. And then your third year of our 3-year program is when you go into paramedic. So by the time you are finishing up with our program, you're finished up with your paramedic degree. And we do that for a reason. When we first started, the paramedic was always first. That was the first accomplishment that the EMTs would do, or the interns would do. And then unfortunately, they would move on to getting a job someplace else. And we paid for the paramedic, and then we wouldn't get anything out of it, so to speak. So we switched it around, and you now become a basic, and you get 2 years of experience as a basic, and then you can start writing on the ambulance part of the internship program. And then that third year, we bump you up to the paramedic level. So by the time you're done with your 3-year intern program, you have your associate's degree in fire science, and you have your level 2, which is the highest level in the state of Wisconsin to be you're a certified firefighter at that level. And then you're also a paramedic. So that's very sought after for being hired at departments. A lot of our interns go to City of Madison, Janesville, Green Bay, Stevens Point. They go all over the state, and they're very sought after. So they have 3 years of experience, plus they have quite a bit of knowledge and certification with them. So it's a good program if you could get into, if you're interested in firefighting or being an EMT. Look into some internships, see what you guys can find out there, because it's a great way to go. And on top of that, in our area, or for Oregon, when you're not on your intern day, then you are able to ride on the ambulance as a basic, and then we will pay you, I think it's $11 or $12 an hour to do that. So, and you can study, you can do whatever you want during that time that you're on the ambulance. So it would be beneficial. You learn a lot in those 3 years, that's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a really great way to get kind of started in that direction, because it can be kind of expensive to pay for school out of your pocket, but with the internship, that's a great way to get reimbursement. For example, the way that I did it with my EMS service is we don't have an internship program, but if you sign a piece of paper that says, I'll work for your company for the next year or 2 years, they'll pay for you to go to school. So that's how I did it. So I haven't actually paid for any of my EMS education yet. It's all been paid for by my employers. So it's pretty slick. Anyone have questions about the education required or anything like that going into the EMT or paramedic program? Cool. We will move on here. So if you think if you want to get more information, there's a lot of different ways that we can grow as EMTs and paramedics. So these are all acronyms of different educational components that we can get above and beyond. So we could specialize. The first word is TEMS, T-E-M-S, and that stands for Tactical EMS. So those would be paramedics that go out with the SWAT team and help for tactical situations. We can get certifications in PHTLS, which is pre-hospital trauma life support, which focuses a lot on the physiology of trauma and ways to help patients in the first hour after their injury. We could get an advanced trauma life support certification, which is kind of the same thing. GEMS is geriatric emergency medical services. And they have that because there's a lot of ways in which people who are elderly differ from people who are young, like maybe you or I or your parents or your friends, based on the way that their body works and the changes that happen once they become, the geriatric in the 80, 90, 100-year-old range, sometimes a little younger too. Also ABLS, that stands for Advanced Burn Life Support. And so that's another way that we can learn about people who have burns and try and take the best care of them possible. Some of the other educational opportunities that are really great, Well, before COVID, we had a lot of conferences that we could go to. So every year, the University of Wisconsin MedFlight program had a conference in the summer at the Kalahari. So like during the day, we would go they would have like doctors and nurses and specialists come and talk about really interesting topics. So we got to learn last year about crime scene management. We got to learn about pediatric trauma. We got to learn about a ton of really great stuff. And because we're going there for the education, our EMS services sometimes would pay for all or part of um, our hotel room and everything like that. And then at night we could go to the water park with friends or go have dinner, any of that kind of stuff. And then there's always ways that we can do independent learning online. So there's always things that we can learn, and people who, especially now that we're doing so much virtual learning, ways that we can grow and get really good information. All right, so does anyone recognize this picture or this group of people?
Chicago Fire.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. It's a TV show, Chicago Fire. Sometimes people think about Grey's Anatomy. And so we just want you to know, and I'm speaking for myself, I can't speak for Tom or MJ. It is so unreal. There's so many things that they've changed about it to make it really good TV, but there are a couple of things that are very accurate. And so I know there's just like so much craziness that happens in the show. So we don't want people to start a job in the fire department and think it's going to be an exact replica of what that looks like, because there's so many different types of fire departments and paramedics and all that sort of thing. So TV sometimes is a little bit similar, but there's a lot of things that are not very accurate. So how about this? This, you guys can see, this is a cat stuck in a tree. So we can go in our profession, there's so many different things that we do. We fill so many roles. So it could be helping a cat stuck in a tree, which is the stereotypical fire department and paramedic thing that we can do to help our community. But it can also be working at a mass casualty incident, helping someone get out of a car crash. So the spectrum is so huge, working to check people's blood pressures during health screenings. There's a lot of ways that we can help other people. When I took these pictures out. So, all right. So here are a couple of things to think about. So if you're a career paramedic working full-time in a big city, you could make up to $90,000 a year potentially. And there's a pretty wide range in there. But if you are a volunteer EMT, you could make $3 an hour. So our pay range is pretty variable. So for example, when I'm on call in Jefferson, I get paid $6 an hour when I'm there, and then when the pager goes off and we go out on an ambulance call, then I get bumped up to $19 an hour. I'm not. Well, Tom, what is it there for you guys for your non-interns?
So our paid on call people, they get $11 an hour for firefighting and $12 an hour for EMT. So if you run a 24-hour shift on the ambulance, you get $12 an hour.
Oh, cool. So yeah, there's a lot of different ways that we can do that. So that may be considered like paid on call or volunteer. Those are the sorts of things, but you can also work for a private company and make a really standard hourly wage. Sometimes it's 15, sometimes it's $20 an hour. So, but as I'm sure you can guess, as your pay or as your education level increases, so does your pay. So just something to think about. I have a couple of things here. So if you look on the left-hand side of the screen under the purple, that stands for EMR, or emergency medical responder. So these are all the things that it's called the scope of practice, or they are the things that people can do when they have that licensure level. So as you move to the right in the light green, that's paramedics. So you can see that with each education level, you get to do more and more skills. So here is, you can see the paramedics can do everything to the left plus the green, but the EMRs can only do what's in the purple. So you can see over here, the paramedics can do a lot of things on this side, plus all this stuff, whereas the EMRs who haven't had as much education can just do these couple things. So it's the things that we think about are like the paramedics can give medications, do a lot of different things, put in breathing tubes. The advanced EMTs or the middle level can do some medications, start IVs, not as many medications though. And then once we get down here, just oxygen is the only medication. So over here we have, you can see on the paramedic side, for people who have injuries and trauma, most of the skills are included in the EMT-R and EMT basic areas. So the paramedics can do all of these things plus this. So we can talk a little bit about being a dispatcher and some of that sort of stuff now, because that's a really important group of people that we interact with. So in Dane County, the way that it works is that they have a really set of questions that they ask. So whenever someone answers the 911 call, they say, "What is your location?" And then they'll start going from there, and they'll say, "Is the patient breathing? Are they responsive?" And with each question, it opens up more questions. So it helps them determine. So someone who maybe twisted their ankle 5 days ago and is having pain, well, I think we can all realize that that may be not as serious of a problem as if someone had their arm cut off by a lawnmower, right? And so this priority medical dispatch is a word that we use to help paramedics and firefighters know, all right, how many resources do we need? How fast do we need to get there? So they just give each level. So an alpha level call is one of the lowest, and an echo level call is really serious. That means someone's life is in danger. So that way we kind of know what needs to happen and how fast we need to go. We also talk a little bit about county jurisdictions. So a lot of services are based within their counties. So like in Jefferson County, we have all of our dispatch comes through Jefferson County Sheriff's Office. But in Dane County, it comes through the Dane County Sheriff's Office and the Public Safety Communication Center. So there's a lot of different ways that people can get information, have the ambulance dispatched, and all that sort of thing. One of the other really awesome things is in October of 2012, the dispatchers have been working on really getting some good training. There was a gentleman in Dane County who stopped breathing and he needed CPR. And so the dispatchers were able to give his son, who I think was either 8 or 9 at the time, instructions over the phone about exactly how to do CPR. He'd never done it before in his life. And the son was able to do CPR on his dad until paramedics got there. And once the paramedics got there, they continued and got the patient to the hospital, and the man lived, all because the dispatchers were able to give the CPR instructions to the patient's son on the phone. So it was really, really awesome. And mass casualties. We've been talking a lot about that, I know. And so just trying to get as much information as possible and help get the right resources to the right people at the right time is one of the biggest things that the dispatchers can do. Let's take a look. So we just talked a little bit about that. Here's a little diagram of what the 911 system looks like. So you can see on the left is the 911 caller coming into the switchboard, and then coming over to the PSAP stands for the Public Safety Answering Point. So the dispatchers are able to get a lot of good information. So now I just wanted to talk about a couple things that I really like about EMS. So one of the coolest things that I've had the chance to do is to hang on one second. Sorry about that. One of the coolest things that I've had the chance to do is usually about once a year, I volunteer for Disney World. Every year they have a couple of runs like the Disney Marathon or the Wine and Dine Half Marathon. And so they look for volunteers to come down and be an EMT for Disney for a day. And so there's hundreds of us that will come down and work on the race course for the day. And in return, they give us a free ticket to Disney World. So it's kind of a fun vacation, and I really enjoy. I got to meet some really cool people from all over the country. So there's a ton of cool opportunities. We also talked a little bit about the conferences. It sometimes is really cool to be able to go and learn about things that you've never had the chance to learn about before from really, really awesome, smart people. So in January, and every year in Milwaukee, they have a big, huge conference. It's one of the biggest EMS conferences in the world, in which people from all over the state and all over the country come to have speakers talk to them from all over the country. And so it's a lot of really cool stuff. So last year I learned about some really interesting, if a patient overdoses on poison accidentally, like what are some of the treatments for that? We got to learn about some of the things that happen in EMS that are really difficult to deal with, like really challenging situations. So, and then one of the other things that I really like most is some of my friends that I've met through EMS are my best friends, and that I've known them for years. So that's really awesome. A couple of things that I don't like about being an EMT, or things that are difficult, is sometimes it can be hard when patients die, and even though we do our best, sometimes we're not able to save everyone. But it's really awesome for us to remember that we have the opportunity to help them. So that can be kind of challenging. And then other special patient populations, it can be difficult to deal with, like really sick kids sometimes, especially sick babies, in a lot of ways. So those are things that I don't like as much about EMS. But okay, anyone have any questions? Or actually, Tom, do you want to talk about anything, if you have different likes or dislikes about EMS?
Yeah, it's the to be able to help people is obviously the biggest reason why I got into it. You meet all sorts of different people, but like you were saying, the way that I kind of distance myself is if I'm taking care of somebody and they're a critically ill patient, I kind of make sure that I know on my end that I've done everything possible to help this person. If the person still dies, obviously it's a terrible thing, but I don't look at it as it being my fault. You know what I mean? I was called there to help. I did what I could to the best of my knowledge. And I did everything I possibly could for the person, but unfortunately the person still died. That's one of the hardest things that some of the EMTs do have to deal with. We had an EMT that was just new on the department, and he went to a car accident. And when he got back from the car accident, he came up to me and goes, I don't know if I can do this anymore. And he was literally there for probably about 4 weeks, I think. And I'm like, wow, what's going on? And this is after his schooling. So, he was ready to go as an EMT. And I said, what's going on? And he goes, that car accident I was just at. And I was like, yeah. He goes, the kid in the back seat was the same age as my son. And I keep thinking about that could have been my son. And I was like, oh, got it. So there's a lot of things that get people to a point where, they can't do it because it's a lot of, you have to deal with a lot of like issues, you yourself, and, taking that inventory and realizing that, what you can handle yourself or what you can talk to your other EMTs about, it's really important to do debriefings after, bad calls. And, sometimes you'll see after a bad call, you'll see 3 or 4 people sitting in the room and they're actually laughing about the call that they just went on, but it was a really bad call where someone may have died. But the reason why they're laughing, it's called black humor. They're doing it. That's how they're processing. They're not making fun of anybody. They're not doing, anything wrong. It's just that they're trying to justify it in their head and making it more of a positive thing than, the horrible thing that it was. So there's just a lot of things that you have to deal with mentally to be an EMT. But again, the rewards are incredible. Like I always tell people, you see someone take their last breath, but then I've also delivered 6 babies in the field. The last one was in the front seat of a Honda Pilot. So it's also very rewarding. I mean, I've been doing this for 23 years, and I can't think of anything else I'd rather be doing right now. So it's been a great thing for me.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Tom. That was really cool. Anyone else have any questions for us, or anything that they want to ask about being an EMT or being an EMS? Okay, awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for letting me come and talk about being an EMT. And if you guys have any questions in the future, just reach out to MJ or Tom or I, and we'll be so happy to answer them.
Awesome.
Great job, John. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, and John had talked about that, and Tom also about the debriefing. and stuff. And so Rayanne and Janice, that's very similar to the psychological first aid course that you had taken. It's a little bit more in depth because of the situation and the responders and stuff, but psychological first aid really helps you to prepare for that. So, yeah. That's great. All right.
Well,
Any
cool.
other questions?
Well, I don't have any.
Okay. All right. So tomorrow is going to be Tom giving us a tour of the ambulance and interviewing some of the people that John had talked about today that actually work in those areas. So that'll be exciting. So we will be looking forward to that tomorrow, Tom.
Yes, and again, it's emergency services, so
Yeah.
it's not going to be a crew that's off duty. It's going to be a crew that's on duty. So sometimes we're at the mercy of them not having a call, either before the presentation or during the presentation. So if that's the case, just like everything in the Ready Camp, we just have to go to the next thing. So
That's right. Okay. All right. Sounds great. And so we'll talk to everyone tomorrow. Okay.
all right, have a good day, guys.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us.